Welcome to Glowing Success. My name is Heidi and I am your host. This podcast is for beauty entrepreneurs. Join me weekly as we dive into the beauty industry's ins and outs, from business strategies, top-selling services, and taboo topics. I will be interviewing industry leaders with empowering stories and game-changing insights. Let's illuminate your path to success together. Let's jump into this next episode. Welcome back to Glowing Success. Today I'm going to be speaking about goal setting. So it is the end of the year. We are about to embark on 2025, and I don't know about you, but I like to set some new goals in the beginning of the year just because I do feel like it helps me stay on track. It helps me stay focused, and it's always fun when I can just cross it off the list. So let's go over it a little bit. So goals are really crucial, especially for business owners, and even more so for new business owners, because like I was kind of saying earlier, they help you stay focused. You also get to measure your success, and you can really avoid burnout. It is a huge thing that we need to talk about in the service industry specifically, but goals really help you stay on track, right? Also, I think having a vision, having a goal, kind of dreaming a little bit is also helpful, just because you can achieve those goals. You can set your sights high and still achieve them. So let's talk a little bit about the different types of goals. So obviously there's short-term goals, there's long-term goals. There's all sorts of different types of goals within those two categories. So you can do a financial goal, you can do a client growth goal, you can do a skill development goal, you can do, a wellness goal for yourself. If you're trying to have better work-life balance, you can do so many different things. So, I like to do short-term goals and long-term goals. So my short-term goal maybe would be a month goal or a 3-month goal or even a 6-month goal. Whereas my long-term goals are goals that I want to accomplish in that year. Which sometimes are a little bit bigger, right? A little bit more I'm dreaming a little bit more with those goals. Whereas my short-term goals are I want to hit a certain figure in this month. So if I'm hitting $10,000 a month, I want to hit $12,000 a month. And so, or I want to gain this many clients within this much time. So think about everything. Obviously, things have to make sense for you and your situation and what you're able to kind of stick to, so to speak. But I do think when it comes to goals and making goals, do set some of them that you're I don't know if I'm going to achieve this and it's kind of scary, but I want to put it on my goal list, So I've heard a lot of people talk about the SMART framework. It breaks down your goals into different categories. So you have to be very specific. It's measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So that's kind of how the SMART framework works. So obviously being very specific on that goal, right? So the S, the S means what we're really doing, what you're really being clear on. So let's say you're trying to get more clients, being very clear about, I want to get 3 clients a month, right? You can go into the specifics of why that goal is important to you. It's going to hit my bottom line. If I get, 3 more clients will help me achieve my financial goals, so forth, right? So measurable, you should measure the amount of time maybe it's going to take you. So if you're just starting off, this might be a little difficult because you don't really know on average how fast or how slow you like to achieve things or can. But you can always set a goal, and set that measure just how it is. So say, like I was saying, I want to get 3 more clients this month. So give yourself 30 days. And measuring, that progress is really helpful. So today, what did I do to achieve that goal? If it, A is for achievable. So like I was saying earlier, you really want to, thinking about goals, you really want to think about how easy or what are the steps to achieve that goal? Have I achieved it before? And that's okay if you haven't, or if, this is something that I don't necessarily think I have the pathway to do, so setting those attainable goals, it's very important. Relevant. So, this is an interesting one because I do feel like sometimes people do go off topic on their goal setting of like, what is actually relevant for your business? What are your goals to achieving these? What are you trying to achieve at the end of the day, right? Is it really hitting those major business objectives? Is it really hitting, how relevant is it for your other, things that you care about? Why are you essentially accomplishing that goal? And then time bound is your goal should be clear deadline or time frame. So we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier about, is it a month goal? Is it a short term goal? Is it a long term goal? How much time are you going to give yourself to do that? So that's just a little rundown of the SMART framework. I don't want to go too much into detail with that one because I don't use that framework personally. I just go with short-term or long-term goals. So the other thing that I want to kind of touch on about this is how to stay organized with it. So there's so many different ways. So of course you've heard me mention my free marketing checklist. So that's obviously one way you could actually keep your goals aligned. So it has a little checklist of like, okay, did you complete this marketing task? These are the different marketing tasks that you can complete. So that's one way. Another way is for me, I keep a lot of my stuff on Trello boards. So I'll put this in the show notes, but it's Trello. Some people have been using Notion. I know Notion's really popular now with that, kind of similar to Trello, but a lot different in so many ways. So, find something that works for you that's not just on your calendar. Because I will say, like, we are hopping day to day on our calendar, right? So we're not really looking back at certain things on our calendar. So I wouldn't keep it that way. Keep it in an area where you can kind of put things visually how you would like it. So me, I've just been using Trello for so long, so I'm really just used to the formatting. I'm just used to how it looks. I have all of my stuff on there, so you can do different boards on Trello. So like for instance, I have a podcast board. So on that podcast board, I make there's like little sections or little boards that you can make. And so for me, I'll have one where I'll be like, these are the topics I want to talk about. These are the things I've done. These are the tasks I want to do. I mean, there's all different boards that I do, and you have to really make it unique to yourself. You could do a long-term board. You can do a short-term board. So that's one way you can help yourself stay accountable, but also stay focused and organized. So that's very important when we're thinking about goal setting is you need to be able to kind of reference back to these goals frequently, especially the short-term ones, right? We need to be able to be like, okay, what am I going to do? What's this pathway I'm going to do to actually achieve these goals, right? So some people have done vision boards. So if you're needing some more inspiration, let's say, and not necessarily a clear path of what you're going to do to achieve them, vision boards help a lot. Like, cutting things out of magazines, cutting things out of things like that. Like I know we've all kind of played around with vision boards in our life at some point or another. So that can really help be more inspiring. I feel like that helps me a lot with my long-term goals is making a vision board or manifesting something, especially something larger that I want to do. But the main thing with goal setting that I feel like has helped me along the way is the tracking the progress. And that's why I kind of mentioned the Trello board or my checklist that I made and things like that, because you really want to track like what you've been doing, what helped, what didn't, like I was saying earlier, if you're trying to acquire more clients, let's say your goal is to get 3 more clients this month, what are you doing every day to acquire those 3 clients? You need to keep track of that progress because we can kind of get lost in the sauce of like your everyday life, right? If you got kids, you got to make money. We're going to work, we're commuting, we're grocery shopping, we're doing life besides building our business. So sometimes like we kind of lose track of that progress, but that progress is very important for you because you need to keep track of like, okay, the efforts that you're making, are they working? The efforts that you're making, if they are working, we need to do more of those. So it really will help you down in the future because then you can make more goals that are bigger and kind of have a clearer pathway, right? So one other thing that helps me too is keeping myself accountable. So, I have a couple different ways I do this. So accountability, sometimes I have like a checklist that I'll make for the week, let's say. So that will help me because I'll be like, okay, I need to reference back to my checklist. I need to get this done, that done, so forth. I will reference back to my Trello board. And then also I tell my partner, my husband, sometimes about my goals, and maybe he can help me keep accountable for them as well. So you need to think of ways that are kind of special to you of how to keep that accountability. But I will say it's probably a little scary to tell a friend or family member or your spouse or partner about your goals, but sometimes it's really helpful because those people obviously care about you on a different level than somebody that you just met somewhere. And so they're going to be a little bit gentler. They're going to be a little bit more like caring when it comes to checking in with you and keeping you accountable. But if you're really good about staying accountable within yourself and you just actually are looking for pathways to do things, then yes, you can do checklists, you can do a Trello board, Notion board. Those things really help me a lot. And because I am usually pretty good about keeping myself accountable. So, the other thing I would say through this whole goal setting progress and all the things that you're doing is really taking care of yourself through this process. So when we set goals for ourselves, you are going to achieve some, and some are probably going to have to be shuffled around a little bit, or our expectations are going to have to be shuffled around a little bit. So having that self-care throughout of like telling yourself positive things and saying positive things about these goals really helped me. But you have to realize when you're setting goals out, I sometimes don't achieve all my goals, and sometimes I do. So but I know that going into goal setting that some of them are really long-term, loftily, oh my gosh, dream goals, right? And sometimes even if I didn't quite achieve that goal, I'm heading in that direction. And that's where I keep my track of my progress is like, am I aligned with what I wanted to do originally? Am I aligned with what that goal was set to originally? Because that's also important to think about is like, okay, am I heading in that direction? Am I at least, doing anything that's going to help me in that way? Because that's also important, because that also can be considered, like, hey, I am achieving that goal in some shape, form, or way. And so that's where, we have to track that progress as well. But when it comes to goal setting, I've just found that I don't know, I have an easier time sticking to things. I have an easier time actually achieving them if I've said them out loud, put them on paper, put them in my Trello board, or kept track of my progress on like my checklist, for instance. So you will be surprised if you've never done kind of goals or manifested anything or done a vision board or anything like this that I'm talking about in this episode. You'll be surprised if you start doing that and start putting your goals down and actually keeping track of things. You'll be surprised of how much you can achieve with it. But this is a good time of year to start thinking about this. The end of the year is when you're trying to think about, okay, what is going to come next year, right? Like, what do I want to achieve next year? Or what do I want to see for my business next year? I think that we kind of just get in that mindset, especially in January. I notice that's a huge one for a lot of people of like goal setting time, which is amazing. And it's rightfully so, because you should be thinking about that, because yes, we are embarking on a new year. So you can have some new goals. You could be doing different things with your business and so forth. So I hope that you have taken a lot from this episode. If you would like to check out my free marketing checklist, of course, I will leave that down in the show notes. I will also leave down in the show notes a link to Trello, because that's what I use and that's what I've mentioned. But other than that, set your goals, people. Set your goals. Thank you for listening. I hope you liked that episode and found something useful or a tip that you can use immediately. Don't forget to download my free marketing checklist, which is in the show notes. And my episodes come out weekly, so I'll see you in the next episode.